what do you think about homelessness in the UK?
Well, I kind of have mixed emotions on it. I mainly think that a lot of people were there not from their own choices, like because things have happened to them that have put them in a situation that has resulted in them ended up hopeless and possibly with an addiction or something. But I think some people, even if it is just a small proportion of them, have put themselves there from their own choices and their decisions that they could have done differently. I think some people choose to go into a more, like, not law-abiding way of life, whereas I don't really know what I'm trying to say now.
I disagree. I think everyone homeless has got to be taken as a victim, because no one wants to be there, and they're put in this situation maybe through addiction, mental health, bad childhood, or even just a catastrophic accident that happens, big monetary loss or something. And even if they've made all the decisions to put themselves there and don't want to make any decisions to get out, they're still a victim of society, as it were. They've just completely been screwed over in some way that's led them to this life they've got now, which they can't like, and no one wants that. So no matter what they're like or what's happening to them, I think you've got to look at them all as a victim. You've got to push that through and try and help them, no matter whether they want help or not, because directly.
Yeah, well, I think some people will be quite resilient to help.
Yeah.
And that's obviously just part of their character.
Yeah. But when I say help, I mean more on a grand scheme of societal change and increased.
And I think there should
welfare,
be rehabilitation programs for people that are homeless.
Yeah, I think they're a lot less effective than something like more effective NHS, more effective mental health care, and more effective benefit system.
Well, I think those are all things that we need, but rehabilitation programs definitely do work. I watched a whole documentary the other day about this rehabilitation program in America for people who are homeless, people who have been victims of domestic abuse, where they all join a community together and they help each other out and do it had kind of communist theme to it, whereas there's no money and stuff. They're growing their own food and stuff there and looking after themselves and getting taught how to get better and getting help firsthand, and they're with people that have gone through the same thing.
I understand why that's important, but I see that more as treating a symptom than the problem that is created by the society as a whole, and that all you're doing is small scale stuff when you need to be doing more kind of.
No, I agree that you have to do more
change.
In
and I think it's
the bigger scheme of things, that the government needs to do more in sense of many different aspects. But I do think that something like rehabilitation is very important, because
it's not a bad
imagine
thing.
coming from living on the streets to trying to live in a house.
I saw a video of a man holding a sign saying "fuck the poor." All of the people around him were having a go at him, almost getting aggressive in his face, and it seemed like they all had something to say. However, the camera changed to him in the same place in the street with a sign saying "help the poor" and a donations box, but everyone's just ignored him, walked past. Why do you think that this is?
I think that's got a lot to do with why a lot of people get into any kind of charity or raise awareness type situation. It's because they want to make the issue about them, and they won't not consciously, but it's just the whole wearing pink and growing a mustache and all of these things. It's all about, I'm now the focus of the issue. All of the raise awareness claims and all of these things, having a go at someone. You see someone with this offensive sign, you go up and you have an argument with him. You've done your part, and you've got society's congratulations, and now the issue is about you. You no longer have to actually do anything, because you've done your part whilst getting the attention that you want and not actually helping in any real way.
Yeah, I completely agree with Jen on that one. I think that if you see someone being openly racist on the street, everyone would be like, what are you doing? That's wrong. Society says that you're not allowed to do this, you can't do this. So everyone wants to let them know that they know that it's wrong and that you can't do it. So you want everyone to know that you know that it's wrong and that you're better than that, and that, like, making it about you, and it's all about how you look to everyone else. So it's all like putting on a performance for everyone, pretty much. Whereas, like, putting money in a box and just giving money to someone on the street, it's just kind of, you do something in passing, and no one really takes into notice that it's you doing it. Whereas creating an argument, it's all about you.
Yeah, having your own voice and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you give to the to charities and or the homeless?
I'm a member of Amnesty International, so I have like a monthly subscription to them, and I don't know, I'm quite careful in sense of what charities I give money to, because I have read a lot about different charities and the way they spend their money and where the money goes, and how much of your money actually goes towards the, like, project that you're funding or anything, in comparison to what you're actually giving. So I do give to charity, and I would keep giving to charity, but I think you have to be quite careful and read into what you're giving to, because you don't want to be giving your money to just go to a big corporation, to just be going into the pocket of some wealthy businessman.
Yeah, I don't give any money to charity at the moment. It's more to do with me just being lazy, not getting around to it. But I'm not like a fan of these raise awareness campaigns and stuff like that. I don't really see the point of, because I understand what they're trying to do, but all it is they're raising awareness and getting money to then put it back into these raise awareness campaigns, and it seems that it's all about the people doing it rather than the issue. And then a lot of other charities, you'll see it all just going into administration, and someone's just making money off this. But then I've got nothing against, I'll obviously give to a charity, and Red Cross is meant to be quite good, and I'd be happy to give to them.
How do you think the homeless are being judged?
I think, there's two ways people might do it. It's like a typical Daily Mail reader might see them as like a scourge, just draining society and putting nothing back in and being dirty and smelly and all of this. And I think that's I don't agree with that. But then there's another version of maybe like the typical Guardian reader, as it were, who just sees them as holier than thou, can't do anything wrong, and obviously there's bad people that are homeless. But I do agree they're all victims, but I think you've got to also agree that some of them are less than savoury, really.
Yeah, I agree with what you say. I think that a lot of people just have a very kind of ignorant and very very uneducated idea about it all, like very kind of one-sided and not willing to understand that perhaps something terrible did happen to these people, and some people are very kind of blasé about it and just think that it's their fault no matter what. But I do think, like Dren said, that some people do say that, like, it's not their fault, it's completely and utterly not their fault, when I think they've got to take responsibility for what's happened, even just a tiny amount, even though the rest of it might have been some series of unfortunate events, but ultimately it's probably one bad decision that put them into the position that they were, that they're in.
So are you saying that if they're not willing to help themselves, then?
Well, I don't agree with that. I think you've got to push for help to help them at any time, but maybe.
Why? Is that because of the addiction and their mental health?
I think a big issue is the mental health issue. Is that there's an inordinate amount of homeless people with mental health issues. I think that's got a lot to do with the lack of mental health care.
Do you think that they've gone homeless because of mental health, or homelessness has driven them to go insane?
I think that mental health is the basis of it, because there's still not proper care for people with mental illness. And mental illness
I think it's improving a lot too. Two of my housemates are both mental health nurses, and there's at least 2 or 3 different places in Bristol alone.
No, I'm not saying the care isn't good, but just the way society views mental health is one thing, as being nutters.
I think the views are changing a lot.
Yeah, no,
obviously. I think that everything's changing a lot.
But I just think it still definitely exists. If you find out someone's got a mental health issue,
I think the problem that most people have with homelessness, I think, is the addiction. I think the people look at them and just consider them to
But
be addicts,
You
and
can
that's it. And
you
I
can
think
see addiction as a mental health issue in itself, and a lot of models of addiction do view it as a mental health issue, a mental illness.
I think
And
that
if you're going to look at it like that, then it's all down to the care that we can offer people from the get-go.
yeah, if you look at Holland, they've got booths and street corners where if you're addicted to heroin or you're addicted to crack cocaine, you can go in there and they will give you the drug, and they will give you it like without it being cut with anything. They'll give you the correct dosages. They'll put it into the right places, all with like safe equipment in very sanitized places where they can help you wean off it, so they can help you to slowly get off it and help you change your like way with it. And if there's a lot more things like that, like I think the first thing that you have to do is stop the war on drugs really, and just have more education towards it from an earlier age as to the consequences of taking drugs, because you just get told when you're younger that they're bad, never to take them, that's it. You don't get told anything else other than that really. You may have got like a few like biology or chemistry lessons where they tell you like a little bit about MDMA, but I think people need
I
to be
agree.
taught about it.
I think it comes down to like a big mental health issue, I think. So yeah.
What do you think are the best methods we should use to combat homelessness?
I think there are various different things that need to be done to combat homelessness. I think for a starter, there needs to be like a better benefit system for homeless people, but with more restrictions and more like scrutiny than normal, to assure that people aren't just like sponging off the benefit system. If we have like more procedures in line to make sure that it's like a legitimate claim and that people are receiving exactly how much they need, not less, not too much, but what they need to survive. And well, not just to survive, like obviously to have like a nice-ish standard of living, but I also think that you need to have more education about everything really, about how to prevent yourself from being in a homeless situation, about organisations that are there to help, about drugs in general. I think people just need to have a little bit, just to be taught more about the things that can happen to you as you get older if you make the wrong decisions and stuff. Like, I know that no one ever really tells you at school like what will happen if you
Fell a mortgage or something like that.
Yeah, you don't learn
I can
about
see
that.
I can see like what you're saying with teaching people the specifics of the dangers of how you keep homeless. But I think more than that, you just need kind of a real societal change in that, you know, people aren't getting the standard education that they need. And we've got good education in this country, but obviously like giving everyone a good standard level of education and making sure everyone's got this benefit system to fall back on. And I'm a massive fan of the benefit system, and like, if anything, I'd say like more benefits, and because people I don't think people, you know, fraud the system as much as it's made out to be, and there's stats that show that if people were to be given exactly what they were meant to, they'd actually be spending more money, because people don't claim as much as they're entitled to. So I think with like a good, you know, education across the board, benefit system, and then the NHS to treat mental health and really good mental health care from the get-go, so not just when they're already on the streets and they've already been fucked up by living on the streets. They get it from when it's developing, and usually in adolescence, which is when they maybe run away.
How would you react though if I said to you something like, why should they be sponging off of our tax money? We pay money to have our own health insurance. If they're just going to go into some sort of drug addiction, go into a council house and just mess it up and mess up their bodies again, so they have to go back to hospital, spend more of our money, how would you react to someone that would say that?
I can see like where their point comes from, in that that would be an issue if it was like if that was a wide scale thing that was happening. But I think that if we, like, to try and fund the NHS and to give it to everyone will, you know, combat the problem, not just this, you know, the symptoms of this problem that exists, and that we want to help these people, because in doing that we're laying the foundations from the first generation of making sure that there's less homeless in the future, and it's all about, you know, getting the base level of everything better.
So you're saying that if you're homeless and you're born and say these homeless people have families and stuff, their children are more likely to follow
exactly,
in the footsteps.
and you're just leaving this whole generation out there.
I think there should also be, though, like with that, if you have a better benefit system in the first place, if you had it with better like review, so it's like, say for instance, if someone has been put down as having an addiction, that if they do go into hospital, that to receive their benefits they will have to attend these meetings and stuff to help them, so that it's not just simply doing nothing. I personally think that as well with benefits, that I think that people that are just haven't been in a job, say for a year, and have been maybe more than a year, because it does take quite a while to find a job, like 2 years or something, who have not had a single job for that whole 2 years, I think that at the end of that 2 years or something, they should do some sort of like community service to give back what they've received, you know, like just something like helping out in the field, like cutting the grass like a couple, like 32 hours or something, just to. So
I don't know though, man, because like it sounds a bit like slave labour. Like you have to go out and work. I know they're getting paid, but then, you know, they're getting that money before. That's just a standard.
It's just being.
That's a standard like wage of living. That's being able to. I know. I understand. I understand. But then also, if you're making people volunteer, all that time they're volunteering is time they're not getting a job, and maybe just better help actually putting them in jobs. And I understand some people, you know, don't want a job and they do want to live off benefits, and I definitely think there needs to be better help in finding the jobs in the first place. There was that whole thing. And I do see that's a problem, but I think that's just a necessary problem.
There was that whole thing on BBC on Panorama though, where there was a woman who was working for the job centre, or one of those places where you sign on, and this person from the BBC went up and they were talking. She was asking her about jobs and stuff, and the woman from the job centre place said to her that, oh, you might as well just sign on, love. You might as well not bother trying to find a job. You'll get more money from signing on. So I think there needs to be more in, like, people who are actually offering these jobs need to be trained a lot better. I don't even know if they receive any training in the first place.
You know, I can see the problem, but I think at the end of the day, you should have a benefit system as just a basic level of humanity, that we can't just leave these people to be screwed on the streets, living off begging. And I think you need to just, no matter what a person's like, you need to give them a basic wage of life.
I think it just needs to be adapted to modern society.
Do you think it's cruel for the homeless to own dogs, and why do you think they are so popular within the homeless community?
I don't think it's cruel to own dogs with homeless people. I think that for a lot of homeless people, you're by yourself a lot of the time, so a lot of it is company or companion, and also security, because if you are homeless, then there will be other people around that may, like, say if you're having to sleep in the middle of the night and people are walking through town drunk and you're lying on the street having a rest, if you don't have a dog, these drunk people could just come over and like kick you and beat you up and stuff, and that's happened a lot. And then if you've got a dog, at least it's like some sort of protection, something that can growl to wake you up, and it's also company in itself. And it also, I think that it's just hard to be alone, and I think the dog is just a friend, and I think everyone deserves to have a friend, and I think it's cruel to say that they shouldn't have one just because they're homeless. I
can see that, but then you've got to look at the other side, that like, being homeless, they're not going to be able to afford any vet bills, they're not going to be able to afford any shots for the dogs, you know, necessary stuff. I know there's clinics and stuff, but some operations on a dog will cost thousands of pounds, and the dog might not get enough food. And I'm not saying, I'd be loath to say I want to take a dog away from a homeless person, but I can see where people are coming from when they say it's cruel, because a lot of the dog doesn't get to be inside, it's outside all the time, it's raining, it's malnourished, and it might die a few years old because it's not getting the medical attention it needs. So I can see both sides of the coin, and it's a really hard one to try and decide for me.
I don't know. I think I see where you're coming from, but there's a lot of things. Like if homeless people have dogs, they, for a start, will receive a lot more money from people because people will take pity on the dog. So the more money they're receiving is going towards caring
Yeah.
for the dog. And I know that homeless people that do have dogs, their first intention is looking after the dog, because the dog is their best friend, it's their one companion. So I know from like where I'm from, I pretty much know all the homeless people in Cambridge, and the ones that have dogs are the most like coherent and most normal ones out of all of them. The ones that don't have dogs are the ones that are, not always, but I'm just saying this for example, where I'm from, they're the ones that are really drunk all the time, causing a bit of a disorder.
Yeah, I can see that. But then, like, when you say they get more money, and I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just, being devil's advocate, saying, can you not say that they're just using this dog to get more money when they're putting this dog through very harsh conditions, and not maybe. I mean, maybe their first move is to feed the dog, but are they actually going to be feeding the dog what it needs?
No.
And I could see.
So they're feeding themselves what they need either.
Yeah, but then that's them, and that's a terrible situation itself. And do they need to bring another animal into this to then use them to get themselves more money? And is that fair on the dog? The dog would obviously probably be happier in a home, which obviously might not always be an option.
Yeah.
The dog might be put down. I'm not saying this.
There is a quote from a book that I've recently read about a homeless man in Cambridge, and he fears that a new litter of puppies have recently been born into the streets, and homeless people with dogs aren't actually allowed into the hostels. Therefore, they'll be on the street more, they'll be colder, and the more because they're cold, they will look for escapes and buy drugs, turn to drugs, because that keeps you warm as well. So, is that fair?
Well, yeah. Using the dogs? They're not. They can't get into hospital because they've got a dog.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair at all.
I can see why you wouldn't want a dog in a hostel though, because you can't just have a dog, that is probably got no shots, got no tetanus, rabies jabs, running around.
Exactly, and is that fair on the animal too?
Exactly, you've just got this animal that's, essentially, it's got a master, but it's essentially a feral dog, and it's just, I don't know how happy they are, and if they're malnourished, but I do see the point of it being somewhat cruel, but then at the same time, I can see the need for this companionship, and I'd never advocate taking a dog away from someone, but maybe the process of them getting them needs to be controlled or something. I don't know.